Welcome to Friendly Farmers Pro. It is our global derby, global leaderboard derby neighborhood. Um, and that means there are a lot of differences between Friendly Farmers Pro and how it works and all of our other derby neighborhoods, because we are trying to compete for the global leaderboard. So let's take a look. I'm going to assume that you know how to play Derby, so I don't need to cover those things. This video, we're going to be talking about the leaderboard and the specific rules that we have in Friendly Farmers Pro, and just assume that you know how to play Derby, because if you made it here and you don't know how to play Derby, well, then we have other problems on our hands. So for the global leaderboard, it takes 4 weeks into account, and each week we get a score that contributes to our leaderboard score based on our performance in Derby that week. And then each week is the sum of 4 different parts. So 1, average points per player. 2, average tasks trashed per player. 3, bonus points for the number of players. And 4, bonus points for our position. So the rules in Friendly Farmers Pro are set up so that we maximize the number of points we can get using these 4 things. So let's start with number 1. Obviously, we require 3,200 points every week. Every time that someone misses a task and only gets 2,800 points, or 2,880 points, that will reduce our score for that week by something like 10 to 20 points, depending on how many players we have. And those 10 to 20 points make a big difference when we're competing for the top 200. So look at us right here. We have 13,592 points right now on the global leaderboard across 4 weeks. And top 200 right here has 13,649. There's not a big difference between the number of points we have and the number of points they have, but there's 60 spaces between us on the leaderboard. So when we lose 10 to 20 points every time someone misses the point requirement, that is a big hit to our position. And then that hit is going to affect us for 4 weeks. We can't get those 15 points back, those 10 to 20 points back, until that score is dropped out of the scoring because it was 5 weeks ago instead of 4. So this is absolutely most important. All right, number 2, average tasks trashed per player. So for this one, it's like it hurts you. The more tasks we have trashed per player, the more points we lose for the week. So for this one, oops, wrong color. This one we do no trashing 320 point tasks. It doesn't matter how bad the tasks are, we can't trash them from the board because then we're trashing more than absolutely necessary, which is going to increase this number of tasks trashed, which is going to increase the number of points that we are docked for the week. However, this is not as important as making sure that we hit the amount of points, right? Like it's still important, but it's not like the number one thing. Have to get out the calculator here. 1 divided by, let's say we have 20 players playing. It's like approximately 0.05 points. It still matters, but it's not as important as actually getting the points in for the week. Number 3, unfortunately, there's nothing that we can require that, helps us get more players participating. But we do recruitment, and we only let players opt out for up to 2 weeks at a time. The effect here, let's say we have 1 less player opted in. So if we have 1 less player opted in than normal, that can be between like 4 to 6 or even 8 points taken away from our score for the week. So that's super important. That's a ton of points. That's almost as important as people getting their tasks done. It's not as important, but it's almost as important. So that's why we're always trying to get more qualified players for the pro neighborhood. Then bonus points for our position. So this is like whether you come in first place, whether you come in second place, or whether you come in, whatever other place. Usually we get first or second place. And the difference is, let's say, so if we get second place instead of first place, that means we get minus 3 points. We get 3 points taken away from us. If you get for like first place is worth 3 more points than second place, basically. In order to make sure that we get first place as much as possible, we do two things. We have a deadline. Currently, the deadline is Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That can change depending, like sometimes we experiment with what that time exactly is. So make sure that you're like staying up to date with what it is currently so you don't miss out. And the reason that a deadline helps us get first place is because if two neighborhoods both have the maximum number of points, the neighborhood that wins is whoever got there first. So getting not only is finishing tasks important, but finishing tasks first is important. And then the start time. The start time is kind of complicated for people to kind of understand, but basically, if you start later in the day on Tuesday, like if we start earlier or later in the day on Tuesday than just starting as soon as Derby starts, then we get matched with theoretically less competitive neighborhoods, which are less likely to max out their points, less likely to finish quickly, which gives us a better chance at first place. That is also, the start time is also something that we kind of experiment with. So make sure that you're like, again, staying up to date with whatever the current uh, policy is. So these are kind of the four things that are most important to success on the global leaderboard. And we've also covered how our rules play into each of those four things. Um, and the other neighborhoods, we don't really have to worry about the leaderboard, so we don't have to worry about any of these three things, and it's just the point requirement. But in joining pro, you've kind of said, I care about the global leaderboard. I want to be competitive. So that's where, unfortunately, these sometimes annoying rules come in. Um, like I said, the most important is getting your requirement because it can be minus 10 to 20 points if you miss your requirement. Then the next important one is the number of players, which unfortunately you guys can't help out a whole lot with. But if you have friends who play competitively, be sure to invite them. And then the next important thing is time. And the next important thing, the least important thing is trash tasks. But we still have rules for that one too. And of course, like if you trash 10 extra tasks, then that's going to be minus zero point 0.5 points. Or if you trash 100, that's going to be 5 points, whatever it is. Here's an example from a few weeks ago, I'm not sure exactly when, of how our score for 1 week is calculated. And then this score is calculated for 4 weeks in a row, and then the sum of all of those four is our global leaderboard score. So you can see average points per player is 3,200. That means everyone in the neighborhood got a perfect score, which is awesome. Derby size bonus, that means that's the bonus for how many people we have playing. We got 23 points. I think that's like, I don't know, maybe 18 people playing, something like that. And that number is higher if we have more people opted in. Ranking bonus, that's we got 12 points. That's because we came in second place. If we come in first place, that's 15 instead of 12. Then trash tasks per player, that's 4 points. And if you do like 4 times, like I think it was 18, we trashed 72 points this derby or something, tasks this derby. So we lost 4 points due to the trashing. And so you do 32 to 100 plus 23 plus 12 minus 4 to get our score for the week. And that contributes to our 4 week score. Currently, we don't have any kind of task assignment system. So stacking is important. If you don't know how to stack, then maybe it's best to spend a few more weeks in our main neighborhood before doing pro. Stacking is what allows you to finish town tasks or production tasks instantly instead of having to actually go through the process of doing them. But at the same time, we do not allocate we do not allocate tasks, we do not assign tasks. You take whatever you want from the board, but the expectation is that if you take a task, you're ready to take it because someone else might also be ready to take it. And if you spend 24 hours doing the task, you're wasting a lot of time when the person who's actually ready for it could have taken it and completed it immediately. If there's a task on the board that no one is ready for and you want to start stacking for it, I recommend posting on Discord and in the in-game chat. Say, hey, I'm preparing for XYZ task. Um, and you can even ping the whole neighborhood. You can ping at Pro Neighbors on Discord and be like, hey, I'm preparing for this. That way someone else doesn't take it. And again, we're in the same situation where it takes them 24 hours. And then at the same time, you know that your stacking is going to be quote unquote protected. Um, but yeah, we don't call dibs on tasks. So it's kind of a gray area. If you say, I want this task that's currently on the board, there's no guarantee that someone else isn't ready for it first and then takes it. But if you are stacking for something, or if you are stacked for something, it is a good idea to post that so someone doesn't unnecessarily spend a bunch of time doing it. Um, I'm not saying that like in the future we might be doing something like task allocation or task assignments, but I'm just saying like currently right now we're not doing that. So be sure to, again, it's all about staying up to date with what the current policy is. Our other neighborhoods have much more consistent policies where it's the same, every week of the year. And Pro, we're constantly experimenting and trying new policies. So make sure that you stay up to date. So the main points to take away from this video is never miss a task. I know, like sometimes life is going to happen, you're going to miss a task. There's nothing that can be done about that. But keep in mind, whenever possible, the 10 to 20 points lost if you miss a task. So like I'm not saying you can't ever miss a task in your entire life, but I am saying we're going to lose 10 to 20 points for 4 weeks if you miss a task. So like there's a weird but like I it's just kind of how it is. And then the other most important thing is stay up to date on whatever the current policy is. Be active on Discord and all of those things. Also, something I forgot to cover, if you're coming from Maine, then you should be familiar with the BEM penalty. So if you miss one task, that's a 20 BEM penalty. If you miss two tasks, that's a 30 BEM penalty. 20 BEMs for the first task, then 10 BEMs for the next task. If you miss three tasks, that's 40 BEMs, 20 for the first, 10 for the second and third, and so on. If you finish, um, oops, if you finish late, like if you finish after the deadline, that's 10 BEMs, and if you start before the official start time, that's 10 BEMs. But really, we should not be relying on paying BEMs when we miss the requirements, because the more important thing, it's not like the most important consequence of the fact that you're not missing requirements is these lost points. Said this like 100 times. Like 20 BEMs, yes, but also 10 to 20 points that we lose for 4 weeks if you missed your requirement. If you have any questions, be sure to reach out to someone who can answer your questions, likely anyone on the council, me, Teresa, Jenny, Haley, any of those people, or any of your neighbors most likely will be able to help answer questions as well. And yeah, be on the lookout. We're always trying to kind of try new things.